Ladies and gentlemen, this is Some Say with Tom Reynolds, and I'm lucky enough to have a special guest with me, Matt McNeil. I've talked about Matt a couple of times on the show. You referenced some of his stories on AM 950 radio, one of the liberal bastions of hope and change. And Matt, thank you for doing this with me tonight. I really appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for the invite.
And first of all, like I said off air, I'm totally jealous of your voice.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
And maybe we will still do that shrill off because I bet I can win. And maybe launch a couple F bombs, maybe not. We'll see. But I know you won't because you're the more professional one than me, and I'm.
Well, no, it's no. I swear like a sailor at times. Trust me. I put up we had a warmer day in Minneapolis yesterday, so I decided to go put up the Christmas/holiday lights because I'm a pagan because I just call it holiday. Pagan Matt. With my Christmas tree out there. Anyway, but I put out some outdoor Christmas lights. I dropped my hammer on my foot. I'm swearing like a sailor. So, but no, it's just my pleasure. Swear away.
Oh.
Don't stop yourself.
Okay, fair enough. See, liberally swearing. There we go. A couple things I wanted to talk to you about. First one being is what is it like being in a sea of blue? I mean, I know you had some issues with the state house and everything, and
but minor comparatively. I mean, we really were. Minnesota was really truly. It's like I don't know what to say to the rest of the country. I mean, I get listeners. People are like, "How did you pull it up in Nebraska?" Or people call me. It's like, "Aren't you angry about what happened here?" I'm like, "No, I'm not," because we did it right in Minnesota. I mean, Senator Al Franken. Has been, it wasn't even close. I mean, as a matter of fact, they closed the polls at 8 o'clock here. Governor Mark Dayton, Senator Al Franken called immediately. Every state office went to the Democrats. The Attorney General, Secretary of State, Auditor, all of them went to the Democrats.
Yeah.
The only exception was the Minnesota House, because Republicans went out to the rural parts of the state and played the country versus city thing. They basically were able to take control of the Minnesota House, but they still have a Democratic Senate and a Democratic governor. And 4 years ago, basically 3.5 years ago, Mark Dayton came into office with a Republican House and Republican Senate and absolutely pants those fools. And so I feel pretty good here that, and even actually here in Minnesota, the Republicans who were showing some bravado in the state in the last week have really come out and said, "Oh yeah, we kind of realize we got one house. We really can't force anything down anyone's throat." And I think a lot of that actually, there was a very interesting side note on those house races. They lost most of the metro area, including what was at one point only 10, 15 years ago, hard right-leaning Republican suburban districts all went Democrat. I mean, they won the House basically with the outstate districts. And so it's something I think they realize if they go on out there and try to pull what Ted Cruz and these guys do nationally, it is not going to fly.
well, that's the thing. And here's one of the things: what do you think is the strategy for the Democratic Party to go national? And because I'm looking at this, and as a I was a self-hating gay conservative in the '90s. So Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck listening. If I had a gun and could probably aim, I would have been shooting it too. Uh, what do you say to somebody who's now a turncoat liberal, socialist Democrat who's looking at this and going, "Oh no, what type of strategy could we put forth to go further, longer?"
Howard Dean did it right in 2006, hands down. The 50-state strategy was the best strategy that the Democrats have had on the table since Clinton very subtly went in there and knocked out H.W. Bush. When you look at it, the thing that comes to my mind is that if you are afraid to be a Democrats, here's one thing that's is a reality. It's just a reality. Democratic issues, social policy, fiscal policy are by far the most popular ones. and why Democrats across the country outside of Minnesota are reluctant to say that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, be proud of being a Democrat. I mean, it comes down to two things in my mind: winning on these other states, and these Senate races, House races, these governorships, and the presidency. Be proud of being a damn Democrat. If you don't want to be a Democrat, well, then don't be part of the party.
No,
I mean, if the Republicans, as much as I don't like them and I disagree with them, they get people as diverse as Olympia Snow to Ted Cruz to vote in unison. And the Democrats, you could give the Democrats 99 seats to 1 seat for the Republicans, and they'll figure out a way to screw that up because they just don't know what to do with the power that they have. We are by far the most powerful party. We have the public opinion on our side. We have the demographics on our side. The Republicans aren't doing any of their favors. Their main voting base is dying off left and right. And, being a proud Democrat is going to make these Republicans scared. As a matter of fact, that's their whole goal, is the minute they get out there, it's like, oh, you can't win as a Democrat. They say that not because it's true. They say that because they're trying to convince the Democrats who they're running against to try to become something they're not. Grimes, Landau, you see that across the board. If you shy away from being a Democrat, you're going to lose. The other aspect is just compete. Just compete. Don't. I had a blog post. You can go to. I got a blog called Progressive Citizen X, and on that blog post there was a. I put up the flyer for the Republican in my district. I live in a very Democratic district in the west suburbs of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the candidate that the Republicans put out there was, well, frankly, god awful. I mean, this was just god awful. Someone that no one was going to vote for.
Was that the one with the eagle that I remember you talking about during the election?
Yeah, it was with the what? I didn't quite hear it.
The eagle.
Oh no, that was Sheila Kinney. She ran down the War Eagle down Sheila Kinney down in Eden Prairie. She ran as a matter of fact, interesting race down there. The Republican won, but she had to run as a Democrat because these suburban districts, Eden Prairie is a suburb of Minneapolis. These suburban districts, once again have all flipped towards the blue. But no, this is I can't even remember this guy's name. It's no point in even knowing it. It was like, okay, I'll run. Okay, we have no one else. Sure. It was a disgrace. I think that make sure you have a good candidate and run that candidate. And if you're doing it if you have people running for office for the reason that the Republicans run for office, AKA trying to build up their Rolodex and their contact list so that they can get that big lobbying gig when they get done, well, then don't run, because that's not helping us, and you become very disingenuous very quickly.
Now, you're one of the rare states, too, that have, and I'm talking with Matt McNeil from AM 950. I'm Thomas Reynolds, and this is Some Say if you're just tuning in. And Matt, you're in one of the few states, Minnesota, that has like a third party.
We did.
What happened to that? And was it a good thing? And why did it kind of go to hell in a handbasket?
Okay, you're talking about the Independence Party, and that's what their official name was, the Independence Party, and this was basically the party of Jesse Ventura, and it was kind of, to a point, it was a bit of a joke. Although, when Ventura won the governorship, that was more of a protest vote to the Democrats, Republicans. After Ventura, they had a lot more credibility for really the kind of the early parts of the mid parts of the last decade, 2005, 2006. Sure. They ran some pretty decent candidates, and they really truly did to try to stay independent. The question I have is, were they purposely usurped by the Republicans, or did they just mismanage themselves into heck? They lost major party status this year because they didn't get one candidate that had 5% of the vote. Now, this is a party that, the reason why we have Governor Mark Dayton is because the Independence Party candidate back then took enough votes away from Tom Emmer that we didn't get stuck with a Scott Walker, Wisconsin situation. And now they can't. I think their governor, candidate had 2.75%. I mean, it was very low. And what's happened is they had the Senate candidate, the Independence Party Senate candidate that was going to run against Franken, ended up being a Tea Partier. who snuck, and for lack of a better way to say it, snuck into their convention and basically got the nomination because he brought a bunch of his friends with him. And immediately the Independence Party distanced themselves, didn't even try to campaign for him or anything with that race, which hurt them. They had a decent, Hannah Nicolette was their governor candidate, and she wasn't that bad. But the problem that they had was they had a lot of these supposedly independent guys deciding that they were going to actually endorse Jeff Johnson, who was the Republican that ran against Dayton. And it ended up.
That sounds like sabotage to me by the Republican Party.
There is a level of this that I wonder. I mean, well, first of all, there's just incompetence. I mean, how do you allow a Tea Partier and his friends to sneak into your convention and basically take over the convention?
Yeah.
But you know that's the case. Hold on one second. My son needs to. Yes. Yeah, you can go get some socks, and my son's going to go get some socks. Anyway, welcome to my world.
You may hear my dogs bark in the background, so that's how we roll on this show. So it's not a big deal, Matt.
I've got horrible gas. No, but I think that there's that issue, and then but I think that the reality is this. I think the Independence Party, and I think third parties that are in the middle in this country are the old moderate Republicans. I think, and that's what they are. And at the end of the day, I think that when they have the choice, like in Minnesota with the Independence Party, to basically go roost at home or stay with the Independence Party, when they realize they have no chance at winning with the Independence Party, what did they do? They all went back and they endorsed the Republican.
So now what does that mean for third parties, though? Do they need to, how do they break out of the box? Because I've always been that if you can't, the Democratic person in that, like you're stuck with a Mary Landrieu, do you say go vote for the Green Party to maybe help them get more votes? Or what do you do? Because I'm conflicted with stuff like that. Where I may know, like I'm in Michigan, I know that possibly the Democratic candidate might get trounced by, say, Schneider or somebody. Do I go vote for the Green Party member? How do you handle that?
First of all, I never tell someone necessarily how to go vote. Vote for who you want to vote for. That's the important thing. But please do vote regardless. That being said, that's a very large question as far as independence candidates go, because I mean you're not just talking about one part of the political spectrum here.
Fair
you know,
enough.
you can look at the libertarians, you can look at the centrist, or you can look at a socialist party or a green party. You know, if you want to know the truth, I think the Republican Party today is a great example of how someone can come in and take over an entire political party from the grassroots base. They came in, they went into state conventions. They went, first of all, if you think about what Ron Paul and his supporters did, they went into county conventions in states. They took advantage of the system where no one was go. You know, it's those old meetings where we're going to meet on Tuesday at 6. If anyone shows up, you become a delegate.
Yeah, well, I hear you. And do we as Democrats need to do more of that? Because
just take the Green Party for example.
Sure.
Or Ralph Nader, someone who's left of the Democrats. That I think the problem that you have is that if you are running as either just a protest candidate, vote for Ralph Nader because you just hate the other people. Oh, you should be voting for a person you want to represent you, not just because you dislike the other guys, because that doesn't mean the person's qualified, aka Jesse Ventura. But the Green Party, I mean, you have to have more than just. We know where the Green Party stands on the environment.
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do with schools?
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do with roads? Governing is not limited to what you want to touch. You have got to deal with a military. You have got to deal with drug issues. You have to deal with a border. You have to deal with these things. And if you do not have a rounded, complete policy, you're not going to succeed.
So what you're saying is the Green Party and any other viable third party, possibly viable, needs to have what the Democratic Party seems to need to have: good candidates. who can say
You have to have a good candidate, and you have to have a defined policy.
fair enough.
What is your position on education? What is your position on roads? You have to have that, because I can't. I mean, I've seen a lot of debates where you'll see some guy out there and he's like, "I'm the biker party." Okay, great. Well, would you do for schools? I don't care about schools. I'm only running because I want to raise the speed limit up to 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Does the person get any votes? No. But that's what they kind of get stuck with.
Like the rent is too damn high, guy.
Exactly. That guy's a joke because he's not a real party. And the Green Party, for a while there, I thought the Green Party was on the verge of figuring it out. They went into city councils in some cities, and they didn't take over them, but they were all of a sudden had 4 or 5 voices on their city council or their county board for the largest cities. And that was a big step. But it's kind of like when they launch a new sports league, and after 4 games, they say it's like the XFL. We're going to take out the NFL. No, you're not going to take out the NFL. You're the XFL.
Yep.
Don't get high on your own self because of it. And I think the Green Party might have started believing their own press a little bit.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And it as someone who believes like Bernie Sanders does, and I've totally taken a 360-degree switch with my beliefs, because I used to, like I said, self-hating gay, Republican, conservative. I helped get my first female mayor who was a Republican conservative elected in my town. I was that kind of activist. So I totally hear you on that. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation. I want to kind of move a little bit, and then
Sure.
we're going to also open it to ask some say questions for people who tweet us the questions there, because we do have a very big participatory audience, which Nickie will give when we have some. And also we will have Jeff come in because from TYT community who wants to ask some questions too. But I want to discuss with you sources, like who you go to as on-air personality, because I have.
Where do I read my news?
Yeah, who do you trust? And I have this kind of argument with my audience a lot sometimes, because I go to Newsmax and The Blaze, not necessarily because I trust them, because I want to get an alternative point of view, and to explain, I don't want to sound condescending in this, but talk about how the other side views things, because I used to be the other side.
Well, I mean, I would say this, Newsmax and The Blaze, I mean, gee, I wonder what their opinion on Obama is going to be.
Well, exactly.
But okay. Before, I'm not going to criticize you. I'm not going to. I appreciate being on the show.
Go ahead if you want to criticize me. Go ahead.
What I'll say is this: is that
and I'll give you pushback. I'm happy to give you pushback.
I don't go to extreme left or extreme right.
Okay.
And the reason why is that both of those are writing with an agenda. And it's not that, I'm not saying that they're I don't agree, especially with some of the stuff I read on the far left. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. But as far as news goes, I first of all, I trust the BBC. If I'm looking at international news, the BBC still is the gold standard as far as international news. For national news, it's an amalgamation of, the networks, and I don't trust the networks, and I think the networks are somewhat hacks. But yeah, I do, catch what CNN and MSNBC and Fox News are saying. But I also go to and I got to tell you the truth, this last election cycle, I was very disappointed in places like Yahoo News and the Huffington Post, which clearly seem to have jumped on. They seem to be just as much of a part of this Ebola scare the crap out of everyone, strategy as a Fox News was, which was really kind of disheartening. I mean, everyone, come election day, no one talked about it after that.
Can I tell you my theory on Huffington Post? Bought out by AOL. They're a corporate whore now. And to me, that's why they went along that line. Because that.
Well, I think they are. The thing that's dangerous about the Huffington Post is I am not disagreeing with you at all. Mm-hmm. I am not. As a matter of fact, I think you're somewhat right on that. And here's the dangerous part: is there are a lot of people like myself that, up until the point that they sold out, believe them and still believe them to be fair
Yeah.
and somewhat neutral. And just because they rebroadcast a Jon Stewart Daily Show clip doesn't mean that they are fair and balanced. And I think that, and as a matter of fact, look at them right now. As a matter of fact, there was a Clinton story that was their top story. Their new goal seems to be, oh, well, can you trust Hillary Clinton? Yeah. And I'm not here to say I'm Clinton, boob. I'm not. I'm one of these people. I love Biden. I just don't think he's got a chance. But, I think that they're already trying to do the right's bidding, which is to knock down the best candidate for the left. Yeah. The best candidate for the left, as much as you may not like it, is Hillary Clinton. She's got the one that if she becomes the Democratic nominee, I'd almost no Rand Paul. I don't even think Jeb Bush has a chance against her. Yeah. So now it seems like the narrative is there. So, I mean, I go to Huffington Post and stuff like that, but a Talking Points memo, Daily Kos, is another one that I go to. As far as the Raw story is, I think, an excellent a place to go. I really do like that quite a bit. I do my locals, Star Tribune, Minneapolis Star Tribune, the most useless newspaper in the history of mankind, the Pioneer Press out of St. Paul. But the local TV stations. I mean, you'll get an idea of it. But if you go into news today expecting to be told the news, you're a dupe. You take the news. I'm not saying. I'm not one of these guys. I'm not going to be networks screaming out the window going, I'm as bad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. But I think that you have to look at what are they trying to sell you? What is the angle they're taking? And if you go in there asking yourself, okay, there's a fire on this block, this house burns down. There's really not much questioning that story. It is a fire. But when they do this thing like Pointergate here, where KSTP in town did that, clearly there's an agenda being driven. Yeah, and I think that just being an intelligent individual and not just relying on someone else to tell you it is the key.
Well, and that's it. And let me give you just a little bit of pushback. Then I'm going to invite Jeff and Nikki for some of our tweets because I know we have them. And plus I don't want to squander all our time. But I want to give you a little pushback. The reason I go to Newsmax and the Blaze, the reason for Newsmax is I can actually look at their advertising costs. I actually found that the other day, like how much they sell advertising for. And I saw them as incredibly reasonably priced for what they're trying to do. Yes, I totally see that they're the baby, the illegitimate cousin of like Fox News. I get that. I totally do. But if I'm going to go for like a right-wing type of story and be able to like get even more detailed, I've noticed they do that.
Well, and here's what I'm going to say, because I was more joking. Although,
I know.
Hey, how about that's reasonably priced insanity? How not? No, here's the thing. It's like talking to Cliven Bundy. You know what you're going to get now. And would I go to Newsmax? Would I personally go to the Blaze, Newsmax, any of these guys? Would I personally go? No. And the reason why is because I already know what they're going to say. Well, it's like watching half the shows on Fox News. I already know. Oh, let me get Obama bad. Okay, well, I'm done talking to you because if you walk into it with that narrative, it's bad. Breitbart and stuff like that was that was their whole goal. That was their mantra, that we are going to go challenge Democrats.
Yeah.
I'm not saying not to look at it. I already can tell you, I wonder what their take on immigration is. I already know what it is. I guess the take on Clinton's going to be.
I guess the reason why I do it is because, especially on the gun issues, they really hit those, especially the Blaze and like Christian issues and stuff like that. And what I try to do is, coming from as an insider perspective, I want everybody to understand why they're doing it, and not just because, you've said it a couple of times, that they're just nuts. No, they legitimately feel that their righteous indignation means something. And let's find I don't think necessarily they blindly believe what they're doing is true, but what I will say is this: they want to believe it. Yeah, well, that's
in the same sense as what they're doing is they're not putting out news. They're validating opinion.
Yes.
And so you might have a journalist who is writing a story that is a legitimate news story, that if you look at the 5 W's and how, you're going to find it in there. But I think if you're going in there and writing it from that point of view, it's there. I'm not saying don't go there. And Tom, by all means, I'm not saying don't go there.
Fair enough.
What I'm saying is, though, I already know what the story is going to be.
Yeah, no.
In the same sense, if I can pull up, trust me, I've got a litany of left-leaning blogs, and I already know what they're going to say. I mean, in regards to Obama and immigration. It's great. What a forward-thinking idea. Boy, oh boy, about time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I disagree with him. I'm just saying I already know what they're going to be. You do bring up, though, an excellent point. There is this huge jello mold that used to be called news, where there is no solidity to it. There's no definitive nature to it. It just is this wibbly wobbly, timey wimey thing. And that's the trouble with it, is that you can't just, not like, my grandparents would pick up the Star Tribune, or at that point it was the Star or the Tribune. We had 6 newspapers in town. You got a newspaper, and for the most part, the news stories were the same. Not today, and not I should say, the news stories were the same, and they were news. They were reported as news. The opinions were left to the editorial page. Yeah. Not today. The opinions are well throughout the entire
and
paper.
I know you adore Tom Hartman as much as I do, and then I'll bring Jeff and Nickie in right after I say this. He's pointed this out. You'd get screamed at in the old days by going into like the sales people if you were part of the news. Now it's like everybody's commingling because it's the bottom line to make the big buck and everything else. You know what I mean?
Well, I've shared the story on the air of I was at a radio station in Iowa, and it begins with subtle stuff like this, but this is what happened. We had a DWI that night, and it was a small town, so you reported that stuff as news, and we reported it. It just so happened that the last name of the kid that was popped for DUI was also the name of the local car dealership. We read the news story at 5. We read it at 6. And at 6:15, my news guy came in and said, the general manager just called up and said that the car dealer will yank his contract if we report that his son got popped for DUI again. So we were told to can this story. It's a minor thing, but the minute that all of a sudden decisions like that are made, well, then, I would have liked my boss to look at that guy and said, hey, we're the only radio station in town. We're the only station carrying the high school sports, which in a small town is gold. Yeah. He needs to cave to us. Unfortunately, the fear of losing money overrode all journalistic integrity.
Yeah, and it's ironically enough, if you watch old episodes of Murphy Brown, they told that story back in the 90s. And I'm a huge Murphy Brown fan, by the way. Jeff, welcome to the program, and Nickie.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, Nickie.
Good to talk to you, Matt.
Nice to talk to you, Jeff.
And Jeff, do you want to ask a question, and then we'll do it back and forth, like Jeff ask a question, and then Nickie do a tweet type thing.
Go ahead. I'm with you. I can stick around till at least 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock your time.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, I kind of wanted to build on what you were talking about when it comes to sources and especially advertising. How much of an effect do you think advertising has on what we see in media today? Now, you talked about the kind of the jello sort of amorphous news media, and now you're getting opinion mixed with fact. And, instead of having just op-ed pages, all the news tends to be sprinkled in with a lot of opinion. And does that really do you think that really goes back to advertising and what I like to call and hammer on is the clickbait media?
I think when it started, yes. When it started, I mean, the simple story. Oh, I do a movie review on my radio show. Here comes a movie that's a piece of crap. Well, the local movie theater has a contract with us and they want to sell tickets, so don't make the review crap. I mean, that's where I think these things began. And it's like I was just talking to a friend of mine who's a writer in town, a real journalist in town. And I just sort of said, the minute you start down that path, you can't turn around. You've already, it's a very difficult thing. And I think, there are large enough corporations out there that can still weigh heavily on it. But what I think is what we've evolved into is that these businesses, the banking industry, the fast food industry, the auto industry, they have realized that they have a hell of a lot more say, bonding themselves together in one, group that oversees and talks about individual issues like cars and safety and roads, oil or whatever. And I think those have tantamount power over all national media right now, because it's one thing when Ford, I'm just making this example up completely, but it's one thing if Ford comes in and says our Ford dealership's not going to spend any money with you because you did this bad thing. It's another thing to say all car dealers will yank all advertising off all your network of radio stations, all your network of TV stations if you report the story. And you're talking tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars at times. That has a heck of a lot of sway, I think.
Fair enough.
Just the fear of that happening definitely would have a huge amount of sway.
Oh, of course. And like I said, with the lack of with the Telecommunications Act of 1996, with the opening of ownership rules, it made it easy for these guys. You bond together instead of one guy. It's now the one voice for 100 people, and you're not talking about losing, one contract on your local AM station. Now you're talking 70, 80 radio stations across the country. It's easy to see how media, buckles under pressure very quickly.
Fair enough. Nickie, we're with Matt McNeil for those joining us from AM 950. And Nickie, do you have any Ask Some Say questions? I saw a couple of flyby. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. The first one I have is from Bree Hood, and her question is, if Dems are just lesser of the two evils, why profess commitment to either party? Why not marshal around a new party or no parties?
Bree, hi. Thanks for the question. First of all, you're right, but then to a point, if I can say it, I don't know if wrong is the right term. You're right, but there's a level of naivete that comes with this, and I'll get to that in a second. But you're right. You should. I say this: if you do not like the Democrats and the Republicans, start locally. Start in your district. Don't expect someone to do it for you. If you're waiting for someone to do something for you, it won't happen. Start locally. Create a party. Get together with like-minded friends, whether that's joining onto an established third party or starting your own party that just has your own ideas, but have a comprehensive plan and have a person who is very interested in running for office, and find that person. This is not going to happen, boom, instantly, overnight, third-party candidate everyone loves. That's just not going to happen. You have to start it locally. That's why when we talked at the beginning of the show about how did I feel about the nation, it's a mixed feeling. Minnesota kicked ass. Minnesota kicked ass. The rest of the nation, I feel sorry for you. And yeah, that's going to affect me on some national legislation. But, you can at least start trying to get some level of say and something that you agree with locally. As far as the lesser of two evils, let's be careful about labeling the Democrats as just Republican light. When you're looking at a war created under false pretenses that led to 4,000 plus American soldiers dead, 30,000 plus American soldiers that are permanently injured, trillions of dollars of taxpayer dollars, some of it disappearing in the Iraqi desert, but a lot of it going to the cronies and friends and the pockets of administration people under George W. Bush. All of this done at the behest of Republicans who still applaud it today as the right choice. There is a difference. And that might not be easy for you to digest, because there are times I'm disappointed in the Democratic Party. But I am no fool to think that the Republicans and the Democrats are, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from each other. The Republicans today have no problem sending American men and women into harm's way for personal gain and personal vendetta. That is a disgusting thing. The Democrats, at least to my knowledge, not since Vietnam, but they today, this is something which it's terrifying how far and extreme the right has gotten.
Now, Matt, I think I'm going to have you on another time, because we're getting deluged with Ask Some Say questions. But I knew, I knew we would. But Nickie, would you want to do one? And Jeff, do you have anything else that you want to ask?
Actually, I wanted to go and ask you, Matt, do you think that the Democrats? I know what you just said is that they're not the same. There are a lot of varying differences, especially when it comes to war, as you have pointed out. But do you think that they're still too close as a party to Wall Street and some of the larger corporations, and does that affect their economic policies?
Well, what I'll say is this: is I don't know if it's so much, and I'll take Senator Al Franken. Al Franken is not Merrick Landrieu or Grimes, who ran in Kentucky, or a lot of these Democrats that were afraid. He's a proud Democrat. I saved the term Wellstone for very, high praise. The only one that I really throw that around too much with is Keith Ellison. He is my House rep here in Minnesota.
See, this I may get thrill over you with, because I'm totally jealous of that, by the way.
Ellison kicks ass. I think Al Franken, as a senator, he goes to Washington, and he has been Wellstonian to a point. But I think the system is just so obnoxious there. And the lobbyists are, as you go to shake someone's hand, there's a lobbyist shaking your hand from 8 different organizations before your hand even gets to the guy you're trying to shake their hand with. And I think that it's, I just think that it's hard to like you said, that when you look at the banking, when you look at some issues, you look at what could happen. I think the system is geared for these individual private entities, and we'll just stick with banking, to be able to control the scenario one way or the other. On one side, the bankers get obscene profits. On the other side, they still control the system. They're just not going to make as much money. But I think it's not necessarily an individual Democrat or the current Democratic Party that's responsible for this. I think it's the way the system has been created, that once you get within that Washington Beltway area, it's an abomination.
And,
well, do you also think that this makes it so that liberals don't, or liberal, Democrats don't run as liberals as much when it comes to economic issues?
No, I think that is just, if I can be so bold, idiot Democrats that think that because they're in a state which is traditionally labeled a red state, they're afraid to be who they are. It's just, I really do think that. And we have cases of Democrats running in more traditional Republican areas. I mean, well, back in 2006, who was it? Was it Max Baucus up in Montana?
Yep.
He did have some, conservative ideas, but he had some, relatively, liberal ideas too. I'll go Tim Walz down in Minnesota 1st District, which runs the southern border with Iowa. Tim Walz he's a farming Democrat, but here's a guy who he had one of the most impassioned pleas for the assisted lunch program for food stamps. And he took it from both sides of it, not only from the side of the hungry people that need help, but the side of the farmer. He just won in a landslide. I think you have to be comfortable with who you are, and if you're not, I don't necessarily think we have to be extreme far left liberals all the time just to be a Democrat. But I think that you don't be ashamed of that side of the party.
And Nikki, do you want to do an ad? I see so many of them, and I know we're not going to get to all of them. But Nikki, you want to pick out one or two of them?
Yes. The first one I wanted to grab was Cynthia Sorensen's, and she asks, "Do you support Wolfpack?"
And are you familiar with Wolfpack? If you're not,
no, I'm not. What is Wolfpack?
It's trying to get a 20th Amendment for the Constitution, to get money out of politics and to make Jeff help me out.
It will reverse Citizens United. Basically, say that corporations are no longer people. With those kind of rights.
I am Cynthia. Thanks for the question. I am for that. Unfortunately, I don't know how in the heck that's going to get done right now, because the monkeys control the zoo in regards to the amount of money that's getting thrown around.
Would you like some good news about Wolfpack?
Sure.
They've got 2 states already that have declared that they want a constitutional convention, and that's how they're doing it.
The whole thing is to try to bypass Congress and to go directly to the states where, as you were saying earlier, start local and, go from there.
And this is, I did have a while back, I think it was like a year plus ago, I had an individual on the air that was it wasn't called Wolfpack, it was a different organization that was calling for this. And I said, the biggest fear I have is that once you get that Constitutional Congress open, that it's a free-for-all. And what could be set up in the designs of going and getting Citizens United taken out could end up putting something more TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership-esque into the works, where we're all betrothed into corporations, we're going to go back to a monarchy, I like the idea, and to tell the truth, I really do honestly feel that is one of the few options left, is to do another Constitutional Congress. But you got to make sure that if that sucker gets called, that, like the Independence Party here in Minnesota, a bunch of teabaggers don't run in there and absolutely screw things up, royally.
Fair enough. And I've had that worry myself. And I guess we'll need to find a better answer either from Cenk or Jurger, who's one of the heads of Wolfpack, or Tom Hartman, who's a brilliant mind to pick to maybe help us out with that at some point. Nickie, you want to ask another quick question?
Yes. Let's see. Boy, there are so many to go through tonight.
You're going to have to come back, Matt.
Yeah.
I promise I'll come back sometime.
Awesome.
Go through the feed later and answer some of these.
If you want to run a few of them, and I can try to answer them quickly, we can do a few of them here. Sure. Why not?
First one is Ken Cotton asks, what is your opinion on succession? Could Republican Democratic land division of the United States be the answer? Return individuals.
No. Listen, I love America so much, I'm going to start a new country. Okay, go away. No, and only a moron would think secession is good. Gee Willikers, do you know how hard and expensive it is to start up a navy? Let's just pick one branch of the military. Secession's not the answer. But good luck with that.
And by the way, you just got a tweet from our resident fascist, by the way.
Is this the fascist Canadian?
Yes.
Can I ask him one quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
What the hell are you doing in Canada? If you're a fascist, go to Oklahoma. I mean, you don't ever have to worry about government health care in Oklahoma. They don't care about you. It's your utopia, man. What the heck are you staying there for? Unless you're a complete and total hypocrite and actually like all the government services that Canada gives you, you should be surrendering that passport and running for the land of Oklahoma, my friend.
I'll thinking another tweet. I gotta stop laughing.
Okay, John Connor asks, do you think
John Connor?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Sarah Connor. That was Sarah Connor. I'm new Sarah Connor.
Actually, he's one of our Europeans who might call in if we get a chance with all these tweets.
But anyway, John Connor asks, do you think the God thing will ultimately save the Republicans or doom it to being unelectable for presidency?
The God thing is that if they don't understand, I really wish a bunch of idiots that have never really read the Bible stop quoting it with trying to quote it with authority. They don't one of the main, I'm Catholic, okay? Now you do or don't do whatever you do or don't want to do. I'm Catholic. And one of the main tenets of my religion is to feed hungry people. Yet the same people that will take their Bible and smack you in the face with it are the ones saying, we can't feed these people. I don't remember Jesus with the fishes and loaves demanding people pee in a cup before he hands the stuff out. I don't think they had to have a job or be in a works program. You just fed hungry people. Lazarus was a pre-existing condition, if you ask me. So you can't go through and completely ignore 95% of the Bible and only twist and turn 5% of it into your own argument and act like you're religious. I think that at the end of the day, the one thing I've seen in this country, and John, if you're out of this country, one thing I've seen is there are a lot of people who are religious who are getting really tired of these Republicans destroying all religion in the sake of just in the name of them trying to get more seats.
Yes.
Yes, agreed. And I
But Matt,
Go
Matt,
Yes.
I thought Leviticus was the only thing that mattered.
Leviticus is basically camping instructions while you hang out by a mountain. And if Leviticus is bad, how many Republicans have gone out there and condemned Red Lobster? I don't see them demanding Red Lobster because shellfish is a sin.
Or the Gap.
No, Leviticus. If you're going to go to Leviticus, come on, seriously, you're an idiot. If you're going to go with Paul's letters to the Romans, that was Paul. Okay, I'll go with, if you are a Christian, go with JC. The first four, they're pretty good books there. You can read through there. Feeding people, taking care of people, hungry people like that. Guns are bad, that sort of thing. Live by the sword, die by the sword. All sorts of fun little lessons.
Wait, let me get this. I mean, I'm a former Catholic, so I'm with you on this. I'm agnostic now myself, Matt. But let me get this straight. Jesus isn't coming back with an Uzi?
No, believe it or not, he's not coming back with an Uzi or just becomes, Jesus loves you except you, Billy Hamilton. No, no, they have made an absolute aberration of religion. So
Matt McNeil,
I don't think the God thing is, and I will say too, just quickly, I think there was a lot of Republicans who supported these guys who for years, for decades said, put us in power, give us everything, and we'll put a constitutional amendment against abortion. And from 2003 until 2007, they could have done that. And in that time, they said nothing about abortion.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because they did not want to lose their biggest rallying cry to the religious right. And I know a lot of people who are Republicans, who are Christians, who cannot stand the Republican Party now because they realize they got played.
Fair enough. Let's go with some more questions because I know we got a little bit of time left. Nikki, another one?
Okay. What is your opinion on the Detroit water cutoffs, and what do you think a fair option is?
Give them water, and this is not real rocket science. Give them water, and I'm sorry, you can't give them water. There are people right now running Detroit that are some of the worst human beings that have ever walked this planet. And if you get to the point where you're saying water is a commodity that you have to pay for God's sakes, just give them water. I know the city of Detroit screwed up, but that's not the current residents' issue. You going out there and saying, suck it up. Well, I'm sorry. And frankly, if they're going to do that, if they're going to be so hardcore, then they need to be just as hardcore with the corporations in Detroit, who they still give a pass on paying their water bill.
Agree. Okay.
Thanks for the question.
That is a good one, though. Cabbage asks, we all have the theme, be proud to be Democratic, but is there any tactical way to make them listen?
Any tactical? Well, just stand by your beliefs. And thanks, Cabbage. Stand by your beliefs. And the reason I say that is just if you look at the ballot initiatives that were on the ballot this last election cycle, minimum wage increases, they did not pass personhood amendments. They legalized marijuana. They voted down archaic teacher rules in this country. You have plenty of examples of, even in very conservative red states, Democratic issues being popular. Don't be afraid of being a Democrat. End of story, end of discussion. Don't be afraid of being a Democrat. And don't be that person that when you're in your office building and you hear those guys starting to talk Obama this, Obama that, stand up to them. Make them defend themselves, because you know what? Most of those people, if you put them on the spot, they can't defend themselves to save themselves.
Hey, Matt, I know we got a lot of questions, but before you go, would you be willing to tell that story in person and do it justice about the guy with the trash? Because I told it, and I don't think I told it good enough.
The trash guy.
Yes.
So what had happened is we had an individual come to our house. We have the palatial McNeil mansion. And he came by, and it was a business meeting at our place, and it was my wife and myself. And we sit down, and we're talking to him, and as we're going through things, you're being social, and He talks about the neighborhood, and this is one of those guys. And I mean, although you might not understand when I say I live in the city of Hopkins, he lives in the city of Chaska, what that exactly means. Just take a large metro area. You have suburban areas which are right next to the inner city, which have a more democratic lean, and then you have those real outlying suburbs where there's a lot of paranoid people that live out there. And this guy's out in Chaska. That's one of those out there, 45 minutes away from even the, most of the major highways kind of place. And that's where he wants to live. And that's perfectly fine. There are some lovely areas out there. But, he was, he sort of said, oh, I bet this has got some problems in this neighborhood. It's like, no, we've not had any crime ever in our neighborhood. We've been here for 14 years and, kind of bashing on things. And he talked about how safe his neighborhood was. And he lives seriously out in the middle of the boondocks out there. He's got guns and a dog and, a house alarm and motion lights. I said, dear God, what are you expecting come through your door? And he's talking about, yeah, we got our guns up there. It's like, my God, the zombies coming in on Chaska? I mean, when did Chaska become this godforsaken apocalypse zone that no one ever wants to go into? And of course, he kind of, he realizes like, my wife and I don't have a pack of wild trained dogs and guns and a turret and a tower and a spotlight. And, so you're kind of out there, but, and that's fine. I mean, okay. For the record, I don't have any problem with hunting weapons. I don't have a problem. If someone wants, I would never carry one, but if someone wants to carry a personal defense weapon, I'm fine. I don't believe in carry and conceal. I'm completely against assault weapons, semi-automatic assault weapons. I'm against those. Those are designed, anything that was sat down, someone designed it to kill other human beings should not be available on the market in massive quantities. Something designed for military use should not be something that's available to the masses. That being said, a guy wants to own a gun, knock yourself senseless. It's legal to do. Have a good time. Just don't shoot, a relative or a loved one, which unfortunately is generally what happens in a lot of those cases. He then got in, we talked about our neighborhood, and we talked about we have a neighborhood garage sale every year and stuff. And he goes, oh, we have a neighborhood garage sale too. And we get those people come on into our neighborhood. Those people. Okay. He's not fooling anyone. We know what he's talking about. He's talking about either minorities or people of lower income. He lives out in Chaska. I want, Wonder Bread white. That's the only thing I ever want to see. And okay, fine. And then he starts, you know what I do when I have the garage sale? You know what I do? I go take my trash and I'll disguise it and I'll put free on it. And I'll go and I'll put it out my front doorstep and they'll come by and pick it up for me. Isn't that hilarious?
Oh my God.
And my wife and I are like, you do what? Here is some poor needy family that's coming by, sees free, and you get, great chuckles and jovial madness by thinking about them cracking open your trash and realizing you suckered them. That's really where you are. And that is, in my mind, that's where, unfortunately, a lot of these Republicans have gotten to in this country, especially the ones that like the Tea Party. They are at a point where they just don't realize the monsters they've become at times. And this is probably someone, I don't know what his religious beliefs were, but this is probably someone who probably does go to church and thinks this is great behavior and would do something as atrocious as that.
Matt, he was just joking. It was all in fun.
No, of course, if I called him on it, I'm just joking, joking. No, you weren't.
Exactly.
My wife and I talked about it. That was not a joke.
No, he was. When you told me that, or told the audience that story, I think I tweeted you. I was so pissed off. I couldn't believe it. And I relate it to the audience here, and as an example of how they conservatives can be. And I'm glad you did that. One or two more tweets?
Sure, why not?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nikki, go ahead.
I got Jimmy Bear asked, if Hillary Clinton is elected, do you think it would be politics as usual?
Thanks, Jimmy. To a point, yes. To a point, no. I think that one of the things that's happened and there's one big thing I look at in 2016 is that at this point, by the time we get to 2016, we are going to have a massive logjam of judicial appointees that are going to have been held up by Republicans for a long, long time. And if the Republicans get into office, they're going to try to throw as many. That's their whole goal, is to try to basically keep as many of these slots open. Then browbeat Democrats saying, "Don't you filibuster our guys now?" And of course, milquetoast Democrats will allow them to go through. But if Hillary does win, there's a problem that these Republicans are going to come into, is that they've got some seats. You really are starting to get to a point of an unfunctioning judiciary if they don't go through there and start appointing some judges. So I think one thing that will happen is you will see, whether it's just because they feel as if, well, Obama's no longer here, or if it's just the realization that they're crashing the judiciary, that they will see more appointees by Hillary happen in her term.
Well, plus the one thing I liked about Hillary and always did was she was a fighter. So we knew at least that she'll fight for. I don't think she would allow this to happen.
I don't know if she would allow it to happen, because you really can't stop the idiot Republican senators from being idiot Republican senators.
True.
But I think she will. They're just, like I said, either they're going to be just, we're glad it's not Obama anymore, or it's going to be a situation where it's a case where they just, they realize that they're going to crash the system if they don't start, appointing some of these judges to these positions.
Why don't we do one more tweet, Nikki, if you could?
Sure.
Let me see. Let's see if I could find you one more here. Well, I guess it's another one about Hillary, but No More Donations asks, when will we see a real progressive candidate? Hillary is as far from progressive you can get. By the way, she is pro-war.
We are a long way away from a Elizabeth Warren being a presidency. We are starting to swing back towards the left in this country, but I've often brought up the point. You have to understand how far to the right we've gotten. In 2012, one of the candidates on the stage on the Republican debates was a freaking libertarian. Libertarians, when I was in high school in the 80s, were that party next to the communists in your, get to know politics day. No one cared about them. They were the extreme far right. They live in a fantasy Ayn Rand world, and they don't really exist. And that's how far right they've gotten. That's why this is so hard for the Republicans. They're so close to getting rid of some of their great white whales that they don't want to stop. They want to get rid of Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. You are not, as much as this, I hate to say this, you are not going to be able to put forward a real progressive. And when you say progressive, you're talking about that far left of the Democratic Party, the Wellstonian side of the party. You're not going to be able to put forward that kind of candidate and be able to win a national election yet. 2 or 3 cycles, 2 or 3 presidential cycles. Yeah, I think that the country is starting to move back towards the left. But I think it's going to take time. And it has taken us 20 years to get to this extreme far right. It's going to take us some time to get away from it. And that's just not something that, people look at, wasn't Obama a good, a great sign that things are starting to come back? He was, but, Obama's a real moderate Democrat. He's more to the right than Bill Clinton was. So I think that it's just going to take time, but, keep working on it and work on it on your local level. That's the important part.
Matt, I can't, again, thank you for enough. I think my audience is usually pretty active with tweets. But when we say, can you do some Ask Some Say questions for us at the end of the show? We might go 1 or 2, or you drove through the book. This is awesome. I really appreciate you coming on.
To everyone that wrote a question, I'm sorry if I didn't get to it. By all means, please, I will try to make it back here before too long again, and I'd be more than happy to chat then. If you're looking to get in touch with me, I'm going to be on the air here in just about 12 hours from right now at AM 950 Radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's an app for your smartphone. You can listen to it live. You can follow me on Twitter, Matt McNeil, AM 950. Morning Grind is the name of the show. Morning Grind 950 is the Twitter account there. We have a Facebook page, The Morning Grind with Matt McNeil. I have the blog, Progressive Citizen X, on Blogspot. You can find that there. And by all means, be in touch. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. And Keep fighting. The minute we stop fighting is the minute we do lose.
And you might get Ken asking you some more questions, so that'll be interesting to see your Twitter feed with Ken.
The first thing I'm going to say is, what the hell are you living in Canada for? If you hate Canada, you're the most self-hating person. Get out of Canada. Seriously. You are never going to be happy in Canada. Get out. Leave Rush, hockey, all of it behind. Go down to Oklahoma. Go find Louis Gohmert's district. You'll love this guy.
Oh God, Matt, I adored having you on. It was such a pleasure, and come back again, please. Because
my pleasure, Tom. Thank you very much. It's been a privilege to be with you. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate all the questions, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Great to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you guys. Bye.